So as I stopped and realized it when looking at the Bulls' schedule of games this upcoming week, we really went 3-1 in last week's games. If you caught last week's preview video, I predicted the Bulls would likely go 1-3 this past week, winning only their game against the Hornets, which actually ended up turning into playing the Pistons, and I thought at best they would go 2-2, but as you probably have noticed by now, I'm horrible at predicting which games the Bulls are going to win because this team is incredibly hard to predict. Not only that, I thought we would get blown out by the Sixers, and the Bulls actually made it a competitive game. My hope is that the Bulls will ride this success and confidence going into this upcoming week of games. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. I hope you're all doing well. Before I get into the video, we are going to attempt to find another winner who predicts the score of this game for tomorrow night against the Houston Rockets. That's right, it's been a while since I've done this, as I don't want you guys to, get giveaway fatigued and think that this was only a channel where we just have gimmicky giveaways. Guys, I really just do this to increase engagement and help the channel grow and make the channel a little bit more fun for you guys. So if you're new to the channel, all you have to do is give your score prediction for tomorrow's game in the comments in the format that you see here so that it's clear and it's not up for interpretation. You must get your scores in prior to the tip-off, and it cannot be edited after the game has started, and I will check the editing timestamps. If you predict the exact score, I will be sending you a $100 gift card to Amazon, which was voted on by you, the subscribers. Now, I know it's a Bulls channel, but you do not have to predict the Bulls winning this game. It's what you think will be the outcome of the game, regardless of which team of fan you are. So leave your scores in the comments and hopefully we'll get a winner this time around. But now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about this upcoming week for the Bulls, which is another packed week of 4 games. Again, if none of them get postponed, of course. But as you can see, the Bulls will kick off this week tomorrow against the Rockets. Then they will be taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves on Wednesday. Both of these first 2 teams have been struggling big time, by the way, so hopefully the Bulls can take advantage of that. Then the Bulls will be taking on the Suns, who have been doing very well this season. And then finally, to close out the week on Sunday against the Raptors, who is a team the Bulls could be fighting with over a playoff spot down the line. So for tomorrow's game against the Rockets, I mean, this team has kind of been all over the place because they started off the season very poorly, and with James Harden and all the shenanigans that went around behind that. Then they trade him and actually start playing well, and now they're coming off a 7 straight game losing streak, falling further and further towards the bottom of the Western Conference. They just recently decided to release Demarcus Cousins, which, by the way, I hear a lot of Bulls fans saying we should pick him up for the veteran minimum. I might have to make a separate video about that because I see some issues with bringing in Cousins despite the fact that he's a big man who can rebound. But with the Rockets on a 7-game losing streak and kind of struggling to find an identity and really a sense of direction for the franchise, you have to think this is going to be an easy game for the Bulls. However, despite all of that, whenever a team loses 7 straight, they're going to be coming out hungry for a win. Second, the Bulls have struggled playing against strong athletic point guards, in this case John Wall, partly because Coby White is not a good defender. The other challenge is Christian Wood. He's having a phenomenal season despite his team not being that successful. He's averaging 22 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, and with 1.5 blocks. The guy has just been incredibly efficient, but Wood has also been out of the lineup due to an ankle injury, and although it's been speculated that he might return for tomorrow's game, that still remains to be seen. We'll have to keep an eye out for updates on that one as the game nears closer tomorrow. My assumption is that he likely will not play. The most recent report said that he likely will be out for some more time. On top of that, Victor Oladipo has been out of the lineup with a foot injury, and his status for tomorrow's game remains questionable. So for the Bulls, with no Christian Wood, which is likely, no Oladipo, which sounds about 50-50 at this point, you have to think that this is a game the Bulls should easily take, especially if they continue on the path of how they've been playing most recently. For their next game against the Timberwolves, this one will be back in Chicago, another game against a struggling team. They're actually the worst team in the league right now at 7-23, which has been a bit surprising given the fact that this team had higher expectations with D'Angelo Russell, Karl-Anthony Towns, and then of course adding number 1 overall pick in Anthony Edwards. But then of course Towns got COVID earlier on in the season, had to miss quite a few games. D'Angelo Russell has now been sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks, and then Jarrett Culver has also been out due to an ankle injury, and despite the rookie Edwards looking solid, the Wolves have really struggled to gain any kind of traction. Now, Towns has been back and has started playing like his normal self again after being a little subpar once he initially returned from clearing COVID protocols. And we all know the Bulls have struggled against star quality big men. Again, because the Bulls have had their issues defending the paint given the lack of size down low and their challenges in getting rebounds. But despite the potential struggles the Bulls could face with Karl-Anthony Towns and even guarding an athletic guard like Anthony Edwards, I don't see how the Bulls don't win this game, just given how much the Wolves have struggled all season and with the injuries they have. Just like the game against the Rockets, the Bulls have to take advantage of these shorthanded, underperforming teams. Now, the real challenge this week comes on Friday against the Phoenix Suns, who have been playing incredibly well. They've won 8 of their last 9. I mean, I figured this team would be better when they added Chris Paul, especially after they went undefeated in the bubble, all but to fall short of the playoffs last year. But I did not expect them to be this good. The thing about the Suns is they have the young talent in Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, even Cameron Johnson, and then you add that veteran presence in Chris Paul, who obviously did the same exact thing last year in mentoring those younger guys on the Oklahoma City Thunder team, who ended up performing much better than expected. I mean, Chris Paul was one of those guys I really wanted the Bulls to make a trade for, despite his incredibly large contract, and given the fact that Billy Donovan had already been familiar in coaching Paul. But I also know it likely wasn't practical, even mainly due to the salary constraints and what the Bulls would be able to offer in exchange for him. But at any rate, this is a very good Suns team, one of the best teams Phoenix has had in a long time. And the challenges for the Bulls in this game is guarding Chris Paul. Again, Coby is not a good defender, and he even struggles more on defense against dynamic playmaking point guards. Devin Booker, Lavine has to be all over him as he can get hot in a hurry, and despite Lavine improving his overall defense, it's going to take a lot more effort in ensuring Booker doesn't go off and get open looks. And then Ayton, I know he's not having the best season per se, but he's still a strong big man who plays decent defense and can crash the boards, especially on the offensive end, which the Bulls have really struggled in the amount of offensive rebounds they allowed the Sixers to get, mainly Embiid. The Suns are also one of the best defensive teams in the league. They're allowing on average 107.8 points per game, and the Bulls, who have been a great team on offense, haven't been as successful against competitive defensive teams. Coby White particularly has really struggled against some of the best defensive teams in the league. And then finally, before I ramble on too much in this video, the Bulls close out the week against the Raptors, who have obviously been playing much better than the way that they started this season. They started out with one of the worst records in the league, but have since bounced back. They're now sitting 6th in the East. Guys like Pascal Siakam, who had a slow start to the season, but he's really back to his form, averaging over 20 points per game. Fred VanVleet, the undrafted phenom who got himself a nice large contract, has been incredible. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with a guy like Kyle Lowry with your veteran point guard presence. Now, as of right now, Lowry actually has been ruled as doubtful for today's game at the time of this recording, but since the Bulls don't play the Raptors until next Sunday, we'll have to wait and see how he progresses and recovers and if he'll be available by the time that he faces the Bulls. For the Raptors, like the Suns, another good defensive team, so we'll have to wait and see how the Bulls respond coming off a game like they will against the Suns, and see if they're able to make any necessary adjustments on offense depending on the struggles that they have. I would say the biggest challenge in this game boils down to the Bulls defending the backcourt in Kyle Lowry and VanVleet. Like I've mentioned before, the Bulls are always challenged in going against quality playmaking point guards and limiting their ability to facilitate and run the offense. So with all of that being said, for my predictions this week, which always ends up being wrong in some fashion or another, but I'm going to go bold for this week and say the Bulls go 3-1, losing only to the Suns. I think defeating the Rockets and the Wolves, given how much they've struggled and the fact that they're shorthanded, this should not be a problem. Losing either one of those games would be really bad losses for the Bulls. And I actually think the Bulls can give the Raptors a run for their money and pull out a win as long as Zach Lavine continues playing the way he has been and Billy Donovan can start playing Coby a little bit more off the ball on offense. And if they can continue their recent decent improved defense as well, and that's really the key in their overall success. And then of course, I think it goes without saying at this point, but also taking care of the ball and not committing so many turnovers, as the Bulls are still last in the league in terms of turnovers committed. But anyway, don't forget to leave your score predictions for tomorrow's game against the Rockets in the comments below for a chance at a $100 Amazon gift card. And as always, be sure to subscribe. I do giveaways pretty often on this channel, so if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any, the best way to do that is to subscribe and hit the bell notifications. Thanks for tuning in again, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.